So hey there and good morning and welcome back to Andy's podcast. I know I've been away, haven't I? Yes, because I've started a new journey. Not a literal journey. Well, it is literal, but anyway, I've been away and I apologise for that because I know people enjoy the podcast and I want to keep them going because I enjoy making them, but I've just run out of time and I thought something has to go and it's the podcast. So, but I apologise for that and I am now back so you can continue listening. A lot of people say they're listening in the car, which is interesting, so I've got to stop waving my arms about and doing stuff. So that's great and I hope you get something from them. I love the comments I get back and I like that you listen carefully. So that is one of the things we're going to talk about today. But my podcast, you know what it's about. It's about experience, communication. It's about time, money, balance, and compromise. And these are the 6 things I think we face every day in our lives. And I want to expand on them by using my experience to help you save time and money, or to help you with balance, to help you with compromise. Because I've had to do all these things in my life. I run businesses and not big businesses, you know, I'm not obsessive business. I run small businesses because I enjoy it. I have freedom to do that. So there you go. And so what is today's subject? Today's subject is ambiguity. Isn't that fantastic? It's a big word as well. Big, long, stretchy word. And ambiguity. And the reason I've chosen this is a friend of mine is doing a PhD. And she communicated to me, she said, I'm very stressed. She said, everything's so ambiguous. There's no direction. And I said, oh, okay. What do you mean? Just the questions? Yes, they set these questions which are like, you might as well pull them out of the air and throw them into a bucket of sand or something, you know? They're so, you know, and I said, well, you're doing a PhD, right? And she said, yes. I said, well, aren't you supposed to be leading the way? So the question is there to set the subject or the mindset, but aren't you supposed to be leading your subject? Aren't you supposed to be working with your peers and also reading past text and expanding your subject if you're going to become a doctor? And so aren't you supposed to be expanding the subject? So it doesn't matter really whether the question's ambiguous or not because you're leading the research. So it's about the general subject or the area, but how influences past and present and future may shape that. So isn't that your job? And she said, yes, but I need direction. I said, you are the direction. You are leading this. You're a PhD student. You should be thinking you are leading whatever's going on. To me anyway, because I've been through this process a couple of times with a few people and they do lead the way. I mean, PhD people lead the way. They're doctors. They're going to be the leaders in our field. So I said, well, that's up to you. But then it started me thinking, because I'm on a separate journey, as I've mentioned. I'm writing a book at the moment, and it's all about the science of sandcastles. And I've realised that ambiguity, yes, I mean, that's one of the reasons that actually focused me. I thought about the word, and I thought about my motivations for writing the book. And one of the things is ambiguity, is the constant mine of information that's put out online, which is just, some of it's nonsense, some of it's vague, some of it's apparently given by scientists, and who get quoted in one little part of it, so that makes it true, right? No, these articles are all produced by content farms and then rewritten by somebody who's clever enough to mine them. And the articles, the factual information is the same as I preach every day. Wet sand, build it like a pyramid, work from the top to the bottom. But the way they put they frame their expertise has been very annoying to me. You know, one of the things is some people say the correct mixture of sand to water is 8-to-1. Right, okay, well, if you want to pack it down with your hand like a small child, that's true. 8-to-1, 10-to-1, 20-to-1, it doesn't matter. As long as the sand is damp, you could smack it into a pile and stick a bucket, or smack it into a bucket and turn the bucket over. Fantastic. That's not what I teach. I teach more scientific stuff, and we tend to work on STEM. That's the other thing. In STEM, there's no ambiguity, because you're teaching science, you know, technology, engineering, maths, and in my case, art. So where's the ambiguity? You know, you're following great leaders, and also you're using proven techniques which should be proved by science. So there's no ambiguity. When I don't know something, I look it up. When I don't know something that has never been measured, I measure it. For example, the weight of a gallon of wet sand. So, so the ambiguity doesn't exist in how I portray it. But when I came to start writing the book, wow, I got fantastic help from a friend of mine who, now this is it's funny, but it's true at the same time. She taught the blind for 35 years. And so it's it's the teacher leading the blind. I'm pointing to myself on the camera. So it wasn't the fact that I'm blind to what I'm doing. It was the way I was explaining it. So having to explain a technical exercise is extremely difficult anyway. Anybody who's written a technical manual or a book like this will know that explaining every nuance of what you do so another person can do it is very, very tough if they have no experience. So passing that on, along with my shocking lack of grammar and English education, which is my fault because I didn't listen, led me down this ambiguity path. And then I thought, wait a minute, there's a lot of ambiguity in life, especially, I'm going to say it post-COVID. I don't like mentioning it because I just carried on working in COVID, but a lot of people didn't. And this ambiguity thing has become sort of embedded in the cultural sort of style of a lot of things, like people not communicating effectively because they think, I don't need to. I can just walk, or I can just go get a job anywhere, or I don't want a job there, I'm going to work at home, or I don't really want to travel anymore, or they have a lot of choices through, I have to say, through laziness, but also through their perception that life has changed, and that everybody can work at home, and everybody can be an influencer and make a fortune, or they can lead the way, or they can do this or do that. And they've got this mindset that anything is possible, but they're completely, ambiguous in how they're going to achieve this. If you ask them a question, they can't answer it. You say, well, how are you going to set this up? Well, I've got to think about that, and I'm going to, do a thing. I'm going to watch a few more things. And I said, well, it won't be yours. It'll be somebody else's, won't it? Obviously, we use existing business models. But in my case, I have a niche market in a niche location, which is where you have to travel a great distance to get to it. So, my area and location and everything else is not ambiguous at all. You have to spend money to get to it. So I have to drill down on my operation and find out how to try and convince people to get to that location. And when they're here, I need to make sure they're in front of me. And that's the simple explanation. That's why there's no ambiguity. But then I thought about the word again. And when writing the book, How to Influence People, and they said you've got to have a beginning and a story and a lesson and then a section, segue into the next section. But then I thought, there are two things I've said for a long time, and that is America runs on two things, which is money and comfort. People will pay to be comfortable. It doesn't matter what it is. So, and I thought, well, especially with this how can I put it? This layer of not wanting to do anything, laziness, if you like. I don't know what to call it, really. This undercurrent we have at the moment, where people just expect other people to do stuff and they don't want to do it. And I thought, wow, okay. So when I'm writing the book, I thought, well, there's two sorts of people. The people that actually want to read a book, and we know who they are. And then the people who just want to look at the pictures. I'm one of those. I'm pointing at myself again. So I want to look at the pictures, but the pictures have to be accurately depicting what is in the words. So, the book I'm going to be doing will have hundreds and hundreds of pictures in it, because you need the ability to flick through and find the picture you want and go, oh, that's how he holds it. Or, oh, I see, it has to be straight there. Oh, and that's how you do the edge. Oh, and the pointy tower. Oh, I see why he calls it a pencil now. So it has to be, the images just have to be as concise as the depiction, as the description. So there's no ambiguity. If I'm talking about making a pencil top on a sandcastle, I'm talking about it looking like a sharpened 2B pencil. Something that's pointy and sharp and has got the facets on it. It facets the flat surfaces just like a sharpened pencil, if it has those. If it's sharpened round, just like a round sharpened pencil. But I have to have that picture, not a general view of a sandcastle standing up with a pointy top. So the ambiguity was very evident as soon as I started writing. And I thought, oh, wow, how do I do? I've got to do grammar, spelling, and then somebody said, oh, just use AI. Right. again, use somebody else's stuff to come up with what you're going to write. Well, AI, I don't know whether it's goodness or thank goodness, is only able to process information that's already been given online. So that's one of the other reasons for writing the book, so AI might learn something. With the sort of constructional methods I'm trying to teach, and we have a system, and I'm trying to teach that system to more people to make it more effective. And I do it online every day. I make videos and do all this stuff, but a book is more effective because I've realised that on the beach, the one thing you can't do is look at your screen, because it's always bleached out by the sun, isn't it? It drives people mad, and I've noticed this more and more. I'm one of those people, because when I'm trying to post on the beach or make a live video or do a reel, I really can't see what I'm doing, I should have a tent, shouldn't I? Right, just to make a video, go and buy a tent. So, it's... And, of course, then you're standing in the shade, so the filming isn't as good, and it certainly doesn't show the water being beautifully blue and all that stuff. So there's choices. It's a balance, again. It's a balance and a compromise. And a compromise is, do I want to spend that much time setting this all up just to make a small reel? And and it's balancing that between what I have to achieve in the day and what I don't have to achieve. And now I've got a writing schedule. It's been more difficult. But the ambiguity it started me thinking about talking to friends and communication. I was thinking about communication. And then I thought, wow, how many people are just not bothered in replying? They don't even think it's worth a reply. One of the things I hear in business all the time, especially with people who've applied for jobs, is that they are absolutely fed up of not getting a reply. The people, if you're not going to get the job, they don't even reply and say, sorry, you've not been accepted this time, please try again. They don't even write that. They just don't bother replying. And I think that's just bad communication and bad business. And, quite frankly, would you want to work for a company that can't even be bothered to tell you no? You've got to look at that as well. That's very, very important. I recently know somebody who's secured a job, and they really need a job, and they work very hard, and they were given the job, but with no job description. They said, well, that's coming with the offer, the formal offer. Right. Okay, so you went for a job interview for a job where you don't know what you're doing, but you're going to get money. Okay. So how on earth are you going to know whether you can do the job? I mean, it's general, I think. So, but they know they can do the job, but without a job description, how on earth would you be able to know that you had the skill set to do it? But it doesn't seem that that's important. I think it's, So talk about ambiguity. Somebody says, yes, you've got the job. And then doesn't tell you what it is, which is, bizarre, really. Anyway, so that was one thing. And then I thought about how friends respond, how they respond, text messages, Messenger, Facebook, Instagram, all the other social media types, and how they respond. And is it a response with ambiguity to keep you away? Is it a response with ambiguity because they can't be bothered? It's just, oh, that's cool. Or is it a response with ambiguity? I'm not talking about silence. Obviously, when you've been blanked, I'm talking about ambiguity, where they respond occasionally. They respond in a very nondescript manner. They don't. You ask for comment and feedback, and you get that's cool, or that's nice. It's a word I don't use. If I say something's nice, I think it's more of an insult, and because it's nice is just an overused word that doesn't mean a thing. And a nice ice cream, what does that mean? Was it a nice? Was it a great color? Was it a nice taste? Was it cold? Doesn't mean anything nice. So that's the ambiguity of conversation and communication now led me to look at, it forced me in my book writing to look at the way we communicate and look at how people respond to what I'm doing. And there's a difference between social media, which is fleeting, and writing a book, because the book you want to last, the book you want to contain information that is going to go through the ages, if you like. I'm not writing a novel, it's a non-fiction book. So it was about trying to portray my flavor. So then I wrote it, and somebody said, oh, well, and then, all the tools that I'm using corrected it and set the grammar straight, and I'm like, okay, but that's not what I said. For example, I make sandcastles. I've made sandcastles all over the world. And one of the correctional tools said, no, worldwide. Well, I don't think worldwide has the same visual or mental impact as all over the world. The world is a big place. If you say worldwide, I imagine the world on a TV screen. If you say all over the world, I imagine all the places. So that's what so I want to write it in my style, and I had different camps, but somebody said, no, you need to write it formally and get it correct grammarly and get the grammar right and get the way it's set right, because more people will read it. And then other people thought, no, they want to read a book written by you in the same language that you use when it's possible. Most of the language I use isn't possible, as we know. So it was a very confusing time, and I thought, wait a minute, I'm getting into my own head here. It's very, a lot of ambiguity. So I'm writing it in the style I want to, using the correctional term, the correctional tools I have. But then the imagery is just as important as the words. So I don't want there to be any ambiguity. So in relationships, I don't want there to be any ambiguity either. And that's one of the reasons. Another reason I made this video, the ambiguity of relationships. And relationships, I think, have to start with two things, and that's just blunt honesty and communication. So if somebody isn't able to function with both of those, the relationship is what? If you haven't got those, honesty and communication, I mean, you haven't got anything. So I looked at all the people that don't communicate with me, and effectively, and I know the people, I know they're great, but you think, well, do I make a connection with them at all, or is it just somebody they know? And we all have, like I always say, I have probably, a dozen great friends across the world, and I have thousands of acquaintances. So, my acquaintances, one or two of those have become my friends over the years, and people I can really talk to. They ask me the difficult questions. They really do care what I do, and I care what they do. I contact them and say, hey, how's it going? Did you get over that problem or whatever else? And if there's anything I can do to help, you let me know. So I think ambiguity in communication is, we are suffering from that a lot. I think it's a long road. I watched a guy this morning, the good old Mr. Gary V. I'll give a shout out to Gary V. And he's on it. He's shouting and throwing his arms around and giving people the right answers. But there was a question about the drilling down on a niche market, and he said, no, keep doing what you're doing, because you are that market. You're not there to be the big fluffy toy that everybody wants. You're there to be the really scaled model and the intense thing that people are looking for. You don't need to make this other stuff, and which was good advice. And then there was a lady there. She said she was worried about losing people thought of her not being professional. And I thought, wow. I mean, she sounded scared to death of what people thought. And he gave a great answer. He just said, you're not in high school anymore. Why are you worried, being a professional like you are? Why are you worried about what other people think? He said, I don't ever think about that. I don't care. And of course she's a professional, but she was obviously, she was very serious about it. And I thought, wow, yeah, why do you care? Because I'm not that sort of person. I'm a Gary V sort of person, chucking things around, shouting, being loud, getting in your face when I think you're wrong. And, and having a discussion. I love having a discussion. And not an argument. We've done that video before. Is it a discussion or an argument? A discussion is when you really drill down into a subject and put your point of view. And if somebody has a different point of view, well, great. Listen to the point of view and then see if it makes, and then question. If you've got questions about that, great. So, and you can end on opposite sides in a discussion, because you will not agree. I mean, there's no end discussion that ever ends. Not all discussions end in, oh yeah, that's fabulous. Well, I'm glad we can both agree on that. That's probably where the term agreeing to disagree comes from, So so the ambiguity, I've decided, for a long time, I've known I don't like it. If I go to a meeting and somebody was very bland and they didn't really have any guts to what they were saying, there was no details and there was no real force, behind it, I'd go, well, it's just all talk, it's like la la. I don't want to listen to it, so I would lose interest, because I knew that it wasn't being based upon facts, science, truth, money, time, balance, communication. It just didn't have anything. It was just blah. So I knew for a long time I didn't like ambiguity, but then other people have put it in different sets for me, and that's why I made the video. So there you go. I'm not being ambiguous. I hope not. That's not the point of the podcast. The point of the podcast is we don't do boring, and we focus on communication using experience. We want to save you time and money before you waste your time and money. And also, we have to, sometimes I help people just with a balance. You know, a balance of what they're doing, and also the compromise. I have to discuss compromises with a lot of people because they want to do what I do. They want to be where I am. But there's no, you don't. I'll tell you some stories, and you have to decide whether you really want to go down that road, because you have to be very, very focused to be in the tourist industry. You have to be very focused to work outside all the time in the tourist industry. So, you know, you really have to love what you're doing. And I do. So, but hence there's the podcast. I'm not being ambiguous. I'm trying to communicate. Sorry I've been not around. Obviously, I want you to subscribe. I want you to comment. I want you to pass it on to your friends. They can listen to it in the car, and send it to the ones who are ambiguous. The ones who say, well, you know what I mean. Right. Yeah, no, I don't know what you mean. Try and be clearer about what you're saying. Even if it's emotional, be clear, be honest, speak from your heart. Okay, so that's me for this week. We don't do boring with Andy Hancock. And remember, creation begins with destruction. Yes, it does, always. And we don't do boring, and I'll see you next week. Well, I hope I will. That's a promise, not a threat. Okay, see you then. Bye.